of all the veterans, past and present. If you would like to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are now in the presence of your being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. We acknowledge thy presence and thy power, blessed Spirit. In thy divine wisdom now, erase our limitations, and from the pure substance of love, bring into manifestation our world according to thy perfect law. I know you will recognize the tune.
Faith heals, prospers, blesses, and sustains me. Sometimes I wish I had a way of looking into the future and knowing what to expect. But even though I cannot know how the future might unfold, I can still be prepared for it through the power of my faith. Having faith means I have unwavering fidelity to spiritual truth. My faith is my anchor, keeping me steady during shifting worldly circumstances and focused not on the things of the world, but on the power of the Spirit. My faith keeps me steadfast in the midst of uncertainty, inventive when met with stagnation, and adaptable when faced with changing circumstances. I turn my attention to God and feel my soul illumined by my belief that everything is working for good. I align with this truth and go forth blessed by my faith. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Thank you.
I am walking in the light. We welcome everyone here today and everyone that is watching at another time in another place. Before I start my message, which is going to be on making a difference, I would like to remind us that many people have made a difference as being servicing our country, which I appreciate that we did the Pledge of Allegiance to remind ourselves of that. I would like to know who here has been a veteran. Who is a veteran? Would you stand? Who here is a mother or the father of a veteran? Please stand. Who is the brother or sister of a veteran? Please stand. Who is the aunt or the uncle of a veteran? Please stand. How many people have friends that were veterans? Many of us that went through the Vietnam time. Stand up. And I want to remind you that those who have given service to the country, we bless them, one and all. We also bless each and every person that supported our veterans. Because it's not easy being a family member of a veteran. I remember when my brothers were in Vietnam, my mother was typical mother, right? I don't need to explain that too much. We all had mothers, right? And during that time, when the Vietnam War was going on and my brothers were over in Vietnam, there was also the riots in Detroit. And guess where I was going to nursing school? Downtown Detroit at the medical center. My mother was maxed out in anxiety, having 3 of her children into that type of a situation. Thank the veterans for all that they have done. Also, I would like you to thank those people who have supported our servicemen and women, and who continue to support our servicemen and women. Because we are a community supporting one another, and we are blessed in making a difference. I want to have us listen to the daily word from yesterday, and I've asked Deb Vidmar to come up and read that.
Those of you that know me well, know that I'm a daughter, a sister, an aunt to veterans, and I currently have 3 nephews serving as naval officers right now. So this is very dear to me. Yesterday's daily word, I give thanks for those who serve. There are many who place others' needs ahead of their own, who sacrifice their time, even their lives, in service to others. I honor these individuals, those who are still with us, as well as those who have passed on. No matter the form their service takes, I am grateful for their willingness to give the best of themselves. I am mindful their efforts help afford me freedom and privileges I enjoy. I bless those who serve when I pray for their safety and protection. I see them as divinely guided, endowed with the strength, wisdom, and power of the divine. I pray that I will be inspired by their example as I am called to make the world a better place. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourself. let each of you look not to your own interest, but to the interest of others. Philippians 2:3-4.
What does it mean to make a difference? Do we make a difference? Of course we do. Every one of us, every day, in many, many ways, individually and together. Making a difference refers to the impact that our actions have on the world around us. While sometimes our actions can have a negative impact, of course, making a difference often refers to the positive way we can affect the world, individually and collectively. My Mind, Body, and Spirit Connection newsletter article, which Connie sent out, was on making a difference. How many of you have read that? It came through the email, and I will have a copy of it out there also on my display table. And that's basically a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So some of you may have heard some of this, but you need to hear something 5 to 8 times before it's in permanent memory. So right on, right? We need to tell ourselves that. People get older sometimes, they think they're getting forgetful or whatever. And when you look at the grandchildren, you ask them to do something and they forget 5 minutes later what you asked them to do. Is that senility? So remember that. Be gentle with yourself as well as with the grandchildren and your children. I believe that there are many people here at Unity East who make a difference every day. Not only at Unity East, but in family, with the friends, in various community and in the world. One person can make a difference. And I totally encourage you, if you have questions about that you read some biographies and think back on how many people that made a difference. Einstein, light, right? And just within the world, if we don't turn that light on, it's in darkness, right? And we have to do that also within ourselves, to turn our light on. Some people believe we are living in the worst of times. Remember the beginning of that book from years ago that you read? It is the worst of times, and it is the best of times. And some people are preaching that it's such a terrible time to live. I'm going to challenge that thought. I believe it's not always easy, but life has always had challenges. And most of us are over 60, and we can stand up and we can testify to that, right? We have had challenges, and we have grown through those challenges. The news media will continually remind us that there are people in groups who are not respecting the diversity of other people at workplaces, at community gatherings, in neighborhoods, and families, and spiritual centers, and in churches, and in nations, as we know what's going on now with various nations, especially with the Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, and Russia. Let's not forget about all that's been going on in Africa and in various countries in Asia and all over the world. It really has not stopped. It continues to go on and on. One of the things when we get older is that we have not quite the vision that we had when we were younger, right? And when I laugh about that and I say, I get frustrated because I need my glasses. Only the last couple of years have I needed a magnifying glass. Those people who've needed glasses all of their life, they have a different thought on that. And they just roll their eyes at me when I say, oh, I hate needing glasses. Well, they've been needing them for years. We have all these disasters that we hear about in the news media, the floods, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the droughts, the mass shootings, illnesses, COVID, hate, verbal altercations. And it's it's left a lot of people just feeling overwhelmed, which of course, and that includes us. But you know what? These disasters have been occurring since the beginning of time. How many of you read parts of that in the Bible? Talk about disasters and challenges that people have gone through. And anybody who has done History 101, if you haven't, Google. It's so easy nowadays. And I must say, I started Googling, thinking, well, I'll just find a little bit of information on the past histories. And I started with my research on the history, world history of floods. I have 17 pages. I had no idea there was that many. Unfortunately, they're not chronological. But here's a good example. In 1887, the Yellow River flood in China had between 930,000 to 2 million deaths. That's in 1887. Then in 1931, again, there were 422,499, up to 4 million. You know, they have a hard time counting the people there that died, deaths, in that time period. 1939, they had floods in China. I'm obviously not going to be reading all of these, but some examples. In 2013, there were 6,054 people that died in the floods in North India. In Pakistan, 1,739 in 2022 that died in floods. And China's on here a lot, unfortunately. Very, very many millions of people over the years. One thing that I noted is that before 1990, there were a lot of people dying of floods. Since 1990, the death toll has come down to quite often being less than 100 people dying during a flood. Is it the worst of times? I'm saying that it's not the best of times. It's stop telling people, especially young people, that this is such a terrible time to be living. Read your history, go back, Google some of that history. I have looked up the deadliest earthquakes by year. Again, many, many pages, right, that I found on the deadliest earthquakes. And this started chronologically much, much better. It gives you the year, say 1939. There were 32,700 people were killed in Turkey from an earthquake. And we all know that there was an earthquake just recently in Turkey, and not that many people died. But one life is too many. To think about all of the people over the years, Pakistan, there were 87,351 people killed in 2005. And going back over the years, of course, they haven't always kept records of the earthquakes. But we know that there have been a lot of earthquakes over the years, and many people have died and been misplaced and had to move and support their family. Droughts is another worldwide disaster that has happened. And obviously, it is still happening in the United States. 2020 to 2023, the North American drought, California and Arizona, and places that are having a lack of water. The droughts have been going on since the beginning of time. And what is the difference with droughts and fires and things happening nowadays is that the countries, most of them, come in and help each other and support each other, and people show up and help each other. Fire, there's been a lot of fires over the years. One of the ones that really comes to my heart is the burning of the Great Library of Alexandria, whether that was accidental or that it was arson, even back then, that really changed a lot of our history because history was lost during that time period. Michigan wildfires. We know that in 1871, thousands of damage and hundreds of deaths in Michigan, Wisconsin, Holland, Manistee, Chicago, and the fire in Thumb, really close to us. And again in 1881, there was another fire in the Thumb, which consumed 4,000 acres, over 2,000 structures with 282 deaths. And we know that there have been fires recently. Fires back then and fires continue. Life goes on. Hurricanes. People say, oh, we have so many more hurricanes than in the past. In the decades, this broke down into decades at 10 years. 1850s, there were 16 hurricanes. 1880s, 25. 1920s, 15. 1970s, 12. 1980s, 16. You notice there's almost the same amount of hurricanes per decade. We're not living in the worst of times. Tornadoes. Unfortunately, tornadoes have increased. There are more tornadoes now than there were in the past. There's also a lot better records of tornadoes and identifying them. Say in 1948, there were more than 159 tornadoes. Nowadays, there's like 1,000 tornadoes in the United States, and sometimes like up to 1,500 tornadoes that continue. Some people believe that there is seeding done, which basically can cause a tornado. I don't know, but it would be interesting to find out. One thing to look at is pandemics. We've been living through a pandemic. Anybody not aware of that? And pandemics have been going on since the beginning of history. The plague of Galen was 165 to 180 AD. Not just for 1 year, 165 to 180. Do the math. 15 years that plague went on. And it was brought to Rome by armies returning from the Western Asia area. And it's believed that it actually decimated the Roman Empire. 5 to 10 million people died during that. There is the Cyprian plague, C-Y-P-R-I-A-N. I had to look that one up to pronounce it. And years ago, we did not, when we were younger, we did not have that. We had a Dutch dictionary, but we couldn't just Google that pronunciation and hear it a few times. These are not the worst of times. These kids are spoiled. They never had to walk a mile to school in the snow and in the rain. Uphill. And downhill. Sometimes downhill was worse. And I was a skinny child back then, and I had older brothers, and I was teased. You know how some people tease people that are overweight, especially kids? Well, I was teased because I was skinny. And they were singing this song, "The wind's gonna blow you away, the wind's gonna blow you away." And to walk home from school, the top of that hill that was down in the country there, that wind was pretty bad. And I started walking the long way around, and my mother was getting upset because it was taking me a long time to get home. She asked why, and explanations came. And my brothers took care of the little young schoolmates that were, teasing me. I don't know what they did, but they stopped teasing. So that worked. During the Cyprian plague, the population of Alexandria went from 500,000 to 190,000. A lot of deaths. The Black Death. That went from 1347 to 1353, 6 years, not just 1 or 2 years. I remember in 2020, somebody came to me and said, how long do you think this will go on? And I've studied, not only looked up a lot of the Black Plague, but, you know, as a nurse. And I said, well, it's going to go on for a couple of years. And they just looked at me and rolled their eyes and they went, no way. Sometimes you just don't want to always be right, but I was definitely right. It's still going on. During the Black Death, it was spread by fleas on rats, which originated in Asia. Again, most people died in 2 to 7 days. From 75 to 200 million people died during that time. And a lot of people were displaced, a lot of children were without parents, of course, and orphans. And back then, as a woman, this really bothers me, that when a man died, his property did not go to the family. Usually it went to the church. So families, women especially, were devastated financially when their spouse died and they lost everything. It went to the church. Church did quite well, but not the families. There was a Great Plague in London, which there were over 100,000 deaths during that time. And that, again, the rats were attracted to rubbish and waste. Many people lost their jobs. Remember, this is 1665. Trade with London stopped, just like it did in 2020. Here, the real fairs, none of this gathering together like they had done before. And many people lost their jobs and were displaced, as happened recently with our pandemic of, we call it 2019, but it's still going on somewhat in other areas. It is going on. The big difference is that now our water is protected and it's not being contaminated in most places. And there's Flint, right? We still have ways to go. And reservations in the United States, they don't have adequate water in many of them. And sanitation, but it reminds us of the importance of that. And if you complain about your tax dollars going to that, I want you to think what it used to be like before those HIV and AIDS in the 1980s. I remember as a nurse going through that. As of November the 8th, at 6:15 p.m., there were 771, I have to think about this, 1,820,937 confirmed cases of COVID. That's a lot, with 6,978,175 deaths that were reported to who. We know not all of those people that died were reported. And in this day and age, we have vaccines, and since smallpox, they have vaccines. Are we living in the worst of times? I mean, get out your history and Google mass shootings. I found since 1949 the history of mass shootings. And it is interesting and frustrating to me because they tell you where the mass shooting was when I Googled it, the year, also how many deaths and how many injuries, and the type of firearms. I could not believe that in 1949, the mass shooting, semi-automatic rifles. I didn't know they had them back in 1949, but obviously they were out there. Why do we still have semi-automatic rifles out? This is where we can make a difference in so many ways within that. So I want you to just take some time when you, instead of telling these young people that it's such a terrible time to live, give them some hope. Help them know their history and help them see what what? Today is not the worst of times. It's not the best of times, maybe. But if you look at some years, like during the Black Plague and all of the others, it's not good. So don't be discouraged by the world as it is being portrayed. Mr. Rogers, I love Mr. Rogers. We all remember Mr. Rogers on TV. Amazes me how some of these programs have come back onto TV. I can remember I was working in ICU, and there was a young boy who had head injury, and he's singing, M-I-C-K-E-Y. And I'm like, what? He's singing that now because it's back on TV. I said, oh, okay. And he was in another world, of course, from his head injury, but I couldn't believe he was singing that song, not some rap song or something else like that. So, but Mr. Rogers' mother told him when he was trying to understand all the chaos in the world, he said, when I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news. My mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. Look for the good. Isn't that great wisdom? Look for the good. Look around you and you can just see there's a lot of people there. Look for the good. There's just so much out there. And stop telling the children and the young people, this is such a terrible time to live. That's like child abuse, emotional child abuse, seriously. You think we got problems? Think of those children in Palestine and Israel and Ukraine. And soldiers that are forced to go to war in Russia and in other countries. You know, they don't want to fight the Ukrainians, but they're forced to go there. Some of them may, but many of them are trying to escape, and they have underground from Russia out for these young men that want to escape to get, because they just, conscientious objectors, they don't listen to that in Russia. It doesn't really, they don't care about conscientious objecting at all within that time there, so. And as you know, everything we say, believe, and do can make a difference in our life and the lives of others. We know our unity principles, what we think, feel, believe, our attitude, all of that makes a difference. There are many, many ways that we do make a difference. We support one another wherever we can, and encourage you to talk to your children, your grandchildren, and adults who are having difficulty during this time in their life. Encouraging counseling, encourage support groups. Turn off the news sometimes. Just turn it off, have some quiet. I meditate when I'm overwhelmed. Everything is off and I just go into my meditation. For me, that works really, really well. And stop discussing all the crises that the media sends out every day, because this just adds more stress to you and those around you. And I'm going to leave these different statistics out on the display table to share with you, and somebody that wants to look at that. And it's a good discussion instead of discussing about the people and today, and look at what's been going on for generations, thousands of years there. Many of you are doing things, making a difference here at Unity East and out in the community. You know that there is an actual scientific proof that the more we care and do for others, and we care about other people's happiness and well-beings, and we share ways of coping with stress, the happier we are. Do you always notice that when you're busy? And when all of a sudden you're not busy, it's like, oh, woe is me. And then you get busy and you're doing things for your children or your grandchildren or your neighbor. You know, I have a neighbor who gets depressed frequently. And I can say that sometimes that's a good thing, because when she is depressed and wants company, she bakes chocolate chip cookies and calls me over because she wants the company. Now, hey, it's kind of, and then in the summertime she'll make potato salad and macaroni salad, and sometimes she makes lasagna and she calls me over and says, and I've got some lasagna I made, would you like some? Have I ever said no? No, I was thinking about bringing some today because she did that yesterday, and I'm thinking, maybe not. She just gives me like 6 to 8 cookies, which is good because whatever passes over other people's lips misses my hips, right? That's my thought. It was last Sunday, right, Jackie? Jackie's got some extra cookies. She's wondering, like, Linda, would you like to take some cookies home? No, I don't want to eat them. Well, you know, the kids. I have kids in my neighborhood that they're just adorable. Just adorable. So I took those cookies and I pulled into the cul-de-sac where they were all playing when I got home from church, and I held up the cookies and they all came running, and that they were gone. And I took some pictures and I sent them to share, but I had them, you know, hide their faces so they wouldn't be recognizable. They had a blast with that. But just a little thing like that can make a big difference. And there's so many people here that are doing all kinds of things like visiting the elderly, playing games with children, and older people. People are lonely. Go over and play some cards with them. I love playing cards. And I used to go over to Grandma Eastman's across the street and play cards with Grandma Eastman, particularly on my days off. I'd get her mail and do all kinds of other things. And she just looked so forward to that. And I love playing cards. So, you know, it's like a win-win situation. And I would do things for her. She was a seamstress for General Motors. She would sew all of those lovely upholstery seats in the vehicles. She was a seamstress. And she made quilts and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I needed some sewing or some mending done, we would take it over to Grandma Eastman. No relation. I just adopted her. And who says you can't adopt a grandma? You can adopt children. People adopt dogs, cats, adopt a grandma, grandpa, an older person. And if you're older and you want to be adopted, just ask somebody, would you adopt me? Why not, right? I still do that wherever I live. I adopt people, especially somebody, you know, even the kids in the neighborhood. They call me Miss Linda, they're so cute. Send some cards and notes. There are people here at Unity East Church that do that. How many of you got a birthday card? Making a difference, didn't it? Did you smile when that card came?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, I did too. I just, you know, that was appreciative. Not just the card coming from Unity East, but some of the people within Unity East in August, and that was a big birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Right, Linda? And we celebrate that with each other. Just that little thing made so much difference. Phone calls. During COVID, when we were all, you know, going into our little caves and that, I would be calling people, and they appreciated that so much. The phone call, and I still do. I call people up and say, "How are you doing?" And or I send out little memes to certain people that are positive thoughts. And actually someone told me the other day that they save those and they look at those when they're down. And that just takes only a minute or two, but it does help to do that. We can think of a lot of other ways to support one another and continue to do that. Many people do that within not only Unity East here, volunteering their time, their tithes, their talent, right? Their treasures. I want you to think, and I said this to someone the other day, can you imagine if Unity East had to pay for the volunteer hours at minimum wage? How could we afford that? We can't. We wouldn't be able to afford all of the hours, the choir, the volunteers, platform, so many things that people are doing. And I would like you to think about today, and all week, all month actually, because it's Thanksgiving, gratitude, and make a list of the things that you are grateful for. And also, make a list of the things that you do that make a difference. And look at that every day. Keep adding to it, because I know you will keep adding to it. Because you'll think about, oh yeah, I do this, I do that. And I'm not going to point to a lot of people, but you can see me pointing, right? Everybody here has done a lot of things that make a difference. And we are so appreciative of that. I want to thank each and every one of you who made a difference in my life and Unity East. People have been so welcoming since I came. And I hear people, when they first come here, they feel welcome. They'll come up and they'll come back and say, you know, I felt so welcome when I went there the first time. Is making a difference. We all do service in different ways throughout our individual community and our homes, our families. Keep up doing that. Think about what you do. Keep it going there. There's a gratitude jar out on the display table. I'm asking everybody to take one of those little pieces of paper, or 10 or 20 of them, and put in there what you are grateful for, and share that with other people, things that, and tell someone. Don't you feel good when somebody says, thank you for doing that? And you didn't have to do that, but you did that. So let us remember that our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our actions can make a difference in a positive way. And we know about all that positive thinking. And people will say, the Unity is not really growing that much. And I look at them and okay, look at the Unity history. Unity has grown beyond that Unity Church Spiritual Center. Did you know that Norman Vincent Peale went to Unity Village and studied positive thinking? And how many books did he write on positive thinking? And he really got out there and preached it, and it was almost thrown out of his basic church because he was doing this different stuff. There's a lot of people, even the Catholic Church, have you noticed how they're more into the positive thinking? And I so honor the Pope Francis. I've read and been listening to some of the books on CD about him. The man is changing the church, and he's causing a little bit of, anytime change, you're going to get. So that's happening, but let's send our prayers up. Let's have faith that this will become more positive throughout the world, not just here, but it's going out everywhere. I firmly believe that. And it is in unity, not just within the church, but working together in unity. Wasn't that a perfect name for a spiritual movement? Unity? I just love it. Came to him during this meditation. We can all continue to make a difference. Our unity teachings remind us that together we can be the example of what we would like the world to be, as living in peace and harmony, appreciating each individual and a culture of diversity with equity, inclusion, and acceptance of those many differences in lifestyles and beliefs. Pray for peace, pray for harmony. Be peace, be the harmony. Be those who continue to make a difference, as most of you are already doing, right? And I thank you for giving me this opportunity today to speak my mind and keep making a difference. And to that, let us say blessings to everyone. Amen, right?
Amen.
Thank you. Let's go into meditation. Ooh, thank you, the lights are coming down. Let us relax. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Put your feet in a comfortable position. But do sit up straight. Open up yourself. I like to hold my hands up to let that energy, that positive consciousness, the divine God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, bring it forward within, which is where it always is. Connect with that. Keep making a difference. Visualize in your mind, what can I do to make a difference, rather than watching TV and the news and bringing myself down. When I'm feeling down, what can I do? How can I make a difference? Did you know that hugs increase the adrenaline, the energy of a person? It is like moving in, within, and connecting. Anything and everything that you can do. Remembering our Unity 5 principles. That God is good all the time. And if it's not good, it's not God. It's man. It's what some people call sin. It's basically error of thinking, error acting, error of believing. Believe in the positive, believe in the good. See the good, but more importantly, be the good, be the example, which is our second unity principle, that we are one, we are connected. And in our third unity principle, we remember that our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our attitudes all make a difference. And I can hear Reverend Ben speaking, saying that again and again, reminding us. And it's not just thinking one time it's going to bring something on. It's continually thinking the negatives. We need to be positive. And the fourth unity principle, prayer and meditation. When things are challenging, stop, say a prayer. When I'm out driving, I will do that. Somebody's driving crazy, and I'll start saying a prayer. Send them love. Pray and meditate every day, throughout the day. Before you eat, before you go to sleep, and when you get up in the morning, be thankful. Thankful you have another day to bring your joy into the world and be the example. Our fifth unity prayer, as we know, is action in each and every one of us. Take a moment in silence and visualize. Nothing but positive love, send in love, or peace and harmony. Send it out there. Go with stress. continue making a difference, being the example of love, peace, harmony, all the good that you can be. Sometimes all you need to do is just to listen to somebody who's going through some challenges in their life. Sometimes you may need to express your challenges. Do that to someone who will understand and move on. Let it go. Let it go. For that we say, Amen. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen. Let us get out our envelopes and bless those ties, knowing that they will go to good and keep unity East alive. And sometimes people will say, well, we just don't have enough people here that are giving enough money, but they're giving their treasures, their time, their talents, and you really never know. I was working with a gentleman years ago. He was an LPN, had some health challenges, and beyond that, he was not accepted, and he wanted to find a spiritual community where he was not being judged by his lifestyle. And I said, make this Unity Church in Port Huron. Why don't you come there and check it out? And he did, and he found a community there that accepted him and loved him. And he went through a lot of health challenges, and unfortunately did not survive those challenges. And people thought he didn't have a lot of money, but he did give some time, and people there gave him a lot of time. When he made his transition a couple of years later, he left thousands of dollars to that church. Thousands of dollars. We were all concerned that his partner might not have wanted that, so we came to his partner and we said, we understand if you don't want to honor what he's donating to the church and what he's left in his estate. And he's like, he told me you would do that. And he said, you better not, and his partner was such that he would honor that. But again, don't think just because on a weekly or monthly basis that we're not getting enough. Have faith, believe. Charles Fillmore, he would not get all upset if the funds were down. He just had the faith, which I do. So let us say our prayer as we hold this into our hand. And I love to put it into prayer like this. Pray each time. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I love this last part.
Forgive joyfully, easily.
Let's start over. The last part. I give joyfully and easily, for the universe is my source, and abundance is my nature.
when this life is over, I'll fly away to a one God's lost